Good morning, everyone. It's an incredible honor to be here today, so thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Sonam Pelden, and I am the CEO of a crypto exchange based in Singapore. My journey in the NFT space started when my team and I decided to help write smart contracts for a couple of NFT projects last year. First, it started more out of curiosity, but then the more we started to learn about NFTs and the technology behind them, we realized that NFTs did have the ability to put the power back in the hands of the creators, especially the ones that live and work in some of the most remote and isolated communities of the world. I was born and raised in Bhutan. It's a tiny kingdom in the Himalayas. Some of you may know it as the happiest place on earth. Others may know it for the fact that it is the only carbon negative country in the world. But absolutely nobody would associate it with NFTs or with technology, at least not yet. But when we talk about our journey in the Web3 space, we often reminisce about how we got here. So we talk about how the internet has evolved from the internet of data to the internet of people, and more recently, the internet of things. But in most parts of the world, and in places like Bhutan, where I'm from, people are still living in some version of Web 1 and Web 2. It took years, maybe even decades, for the technology to get to these parts of the world, and a great deal of effort as well, trying to convince people to use them. But I noticed something different when it comes to Web3. Suddenly, people are more willing to experiment with it and try to use the technology. And perhaps it's because of all the work that was done previously, or because Web3 simply is more accessible and welcoming to people. But in places like Bhutan, we're seeing a generation leapfrog into Web3. And it's interesting because Web 2 started as a mass participation medium, but I feel like what's appealing in Web 3 is the fact that we are all moving towards more shared experiences, and the fact that we no longer have to depend entirely on centralized authorities like governments or big tech, who almost never serve the people living far away from the mainstream. So I'd say this is a good sign, because overall, the global nature of the digital economy that is being created by Web3 is breaking down international borders for commerce, it's creating new efficiencies, it's unlocking capital that's been tied up in assets, and more importantly, it's leveling the playing field for newcomers like us. So this is where the Meta Jacket project comes in. A few months ago, I reached out to my sister, who is an artist and fashion designer based in Bhutan. For years, my sister Shecha and her team have been working on making these bespoke apparel from Bhutan that have these beautiful hand-embroidered designs on them. And each of these designs tell a story about the history and the culture of our home country. So a huge part of the mission was to try and preserve and promote the century-old art style and techniques from Bhutan, but also to provide an additional source of income for the people living there. And prior to this project, they worked on only a limited number of designs and relied heavily on paid advertising. So when we reached out to them and asked if they would be interested to work on this NFT project, it was a resounding yes from day one. And I think a huge part of it was because NFTs finally gave them the chance to showcase their art and creativity in a space with unlimited possibilities. And what's more, they were free from traditional constraints such as regulations and logistics, which are usually associated with places like Bhutan because of our geographical disposition. So, and moreover, over the course of the last couple of months, the fact that they could engage with the community and really understand what designs were popular really helped reduce the time and resources that was spent previously with mass production. So the business model is pretty simple. We've heard the panelists earlier talk about how each of the NFTs will be tied to physical products. So in this case, Each of these NFTs are not only tied to a physical jacket, but the holders of this NFT also earn a fraction of the sales revenue that are linked to the particular designs that are in their NFTs as well. Every month we have the holders in our community vote for the jackets or the designs that they love most, and they are then listed in what we've dubbed as the Meta Jacket Studio, so that it can be available for purchase to anyone, anywhere in the world. And the reason we didn't tie it just simply to one physical item is because we really wanted to include the community in the overall creative process, in the decision-making process, and at the same time also reward them for helping us make and kickstart this project off the ground, because it wouldn't have been possible without their help. And I think along this way, we've also tried to really understand what it really means to have community ownership and also this interaction between physical and digital products. So I think it's important right now, although this project is still in its infancy and there are 100 different ways that we can improve this model, that we understand that moving forward, this interaction or this deepening of connection between the creators and the consumers is going to be one of the biggest fundamental themes of Web3 brands moving forward. So taking time to really study it and perfecting it is what we're trying to do at this moment. So imagine a brand that is curated, built, and owned by the community members, where the creative process is decentralized and the brand experience is dictated by a DAO. All of this is possible because of Web3. I think simply put, the products and services that will define the next generation of the internet would be those that transform the users into owners. And with this panelist, and also I'm sure over the course of the next couple of days, we will hear a lot more about what it means to build a Web3 brand and what it means to exist in the metaverse. But I think we can all agree that it's helped us to move beyond browsing and to inhabiting in the internet and also owning a part of it. But what's been game-changing for us has really been this idea of being able to kickstart our project on our own and also create social change by bringing about new assets for wealth distribution. In a lot of ways, I feel like we've been living in two separate worlds in the last couple of years. One world where we can touch and feel, and then the other world that exists on our smartphones and on our computers. And NFTs are giving us a chance to finally merge those two worlds and create this experience where you can have the participants and the consumers of your brand actually be, the consumers of your brand actually be participants and co-owners of that brand as well. So we see a lot of fashion brands, retail brands entering the space trying to link physical and the digital products. And I think the reason this is so prevalent is because, at least in the beginning, it's imperative to have something that ties our digital identity to the physical world. We often relate and get sentimentally attached to avatars that look and dress more like us. And although we understand that NFT communities are built online, I think it's important to step away from the computer, to take time to connect and create. I mean, being here in person, seeing all of you as people and not as your NFT avatars in a Twitter space makes me extremely happy, and I'm sure that's the case for a lot of you here as well. It's very refreshing, very inspiring. But I think the biggest impact that NFTs will have in the next couple of years is this ability to be able to create economies on demand. We can do this by using social, cultural, and even intellectual capital. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of mainstream brands come into this space, transforming or associating their physical and digital assets as an NFT. It may take a couple more years for them to fully embrace Web3 and the ownership economy, but I think it is something that we can aspire and work towards. So
I know it feels rather ironic to be standing here today talking about the wonders of NFTs when we're in a crypto bear market, but I think it's imperative that we have these conversations so that we understand we're still very much, very, very early in this stage, so that we can mold it into a space that we are proud of 5, 10 years from now. And even when times are good, it's really difficult to really understand where the value ends and the bubble starts. So as the NFT hype ends, my only plea here is that we continue creating for the physical world as much as for the virtual one, and we continue empowering creators, especially those who need us the most, because what will win long term will be real utility, real economics, and real communities. So thank you so much.